Hello, I'm Hickey from interest.co.nz and welcome to a special economic weather report brought to you in association with ASB. Today we look well over the horizon to the United States and at a figure that should dominate everyone's thinking on interest rates. It is the US budget deficit as a percentage of GDP. The number is 12.9%. The latest estimate from the US government is that its budget deficit will be $1.84 trillion in the coming year. Now that works out at about $16,000 per household in the United States. That number is astonishingly large. To give you an idea, the New Zealand budget deficit, which is the worst we've had in close to a decade, will be about 3% of GDP, whereas the US deficit, 12.9%. That says that close to 13% of the entire US economy is effectively being produced or used by the US government. An astonishing number. It shows how deep in trouble the US economy is and how much the US government plans to throw at it. So what does this mean for interest rates? Well, clearly when the US government is spending that much, it has to effectively borrow that much, 12.9% of GDP. Now, it's already agreed to print some of that, but it can't print all of it. And so it's going out onto the markets to borrow it, and they're international markets. And our credit markets are effectively part of those international markets. That means that long-term interest rates are rising. And we saw that this week, in the last week or so, with a very poor auction result from the US Treasury. And that means that long-term interest rates for the US Treasuries are rising. And because they're the base of all interest rates globally, our long-term interest rates are rising too. This all means that those people expecting longer-term mortgage rates to fall even further in New Zealand are going to be disappointed. Long-term interest rates are rising in New Zealand and around the world because governments are borrowing extremely heavily. None more heavily than the US government, 12.9% of GDP. I'm Hickey. That was a special economic weather report brought to you in association with ASB.